I'm Ricardo Montalban. Welcome to the Book Report. Hi, I'm Captain Ahab. Welcome to the Book Report. Hi, my name's Donald Sutherland. Welcome to the Book Report. Hi, my name is Gary Busey. Welcome to the Book Report. Hi, I'm Queen Elizabeth II. Welcome to the Book Report. Hi, I'm Jack the Ripper. Welcome to the Book Report. Hi, I'm Captain Antilles. Welcome to the Book Report. Hi, welcome to the Book Report. I want to talk today about Larry Niven's book, Footfall. Hold on, let's try that again. I want to talk about Larry Niven's book, Footfall, today. One of the big things about Footfall is its tendency to set precedents for film tropes. If you look back at the alien invasion films from the 90s, things like Independence Day, or even just disaster films from the early 2000s, things like The Day After Tomorrow, there are tropes in those movies that are born directly from this book. This book is sort of the genesis of a lot of modern movie tropes. So there probably will be some spoilers. It's just one of the things about the way that I talk about books. I know that the world is very spoiler adverse right now, and I don't blame people for wanting to avoid having the ending spoiled. So I definitely won't talk about the ending of this book, except to say that the twist, which there is a twist, it's written on the cover. Spoilers. So this is a really cool, like a lot of Larry Niven books, and this is actually Larry Niven and Jerry Pournelle that wrote this book together. They wrote a lot of books together. They make a pretty awesome team. Pournelle is clearly writing the more military aspects of these books, whereas Niven is definitely the ideas guy. He's definitely the one kicking out the majority of the alien biology, the alien psychology, and possibly even the human psychology. The book was written right at the time that we had sent out the second Voyager probe, and we're getting information back. So, you know, Niven, along with everyone else, watched Voyager 1 and Voyager 2 take off in the 70s, and by the early 80s, we were starting to get images of the outer planets, some of the greatest images that we had gotten to date. And that is where the book starts. We've got a group of scientists at JPL who are watching the information come in from Voyager 2, and somebody, one of the initial characters, notices there's something in the image that just isn't right. There's something around Saturn that looks artificial. That in itself is very movie tropey. If we think about, you know, there's a guy that has special information, and now it's his job to communicate that information to the interested parties in order to save humanity from potential oblivion or prepare them for whatever is about to come. And there is definitely something coming. One of the fantastic things is it is familiar. There's something very familiar about this book when you read it. And a lot of people might pick it up and say, man, I've seen this movie before. I recognize this plot. I recognize these tropes. I recognize this. And to some, that may be a real turnoff. But in my mind, the really awesome thing is that, you know, this is the genesis of those tropes. And it can't really be ignored. This book rewrote the alien invasion book. We can go back. I'm sure that there are tons of books prior to 1980 that are invasion related that I have not read. But we can go all the way back to H.G. Wells and War of the Worlds. We basically had a a full onslaught invasion. And the thing that saved us, the thing that saves humanity, is this sort of unknown wild card situation. So particularly germs in War of the Worlds. It's not the case in this book, but it was something, a turn of events that were generally beyond our control that ended up completely saving us as a species. One of the things that makes this book interesting is that the turn, instead of being biological, is psychological. So we may as well just call this a spoiler. I definitely won't give it away, but the idea being that there's something that occurs in this book that saves humanity that is based on the psychology of the aliens and the psychology of the people. But generally, the aliens in this book, when they encounter humans, they, again, like many aliens in many invasion stories, they feel superior. They have traveled across the stars. They have come into our star system, and they have found a group of hive monkeys that can barely get off world. So to them, this is an easy situation. Now, they did cross in a generation ship, and when they arrived and they started dealing with the humans, there was the sudden realization that their psychology was quite different. And the way the aliens approach this is they see it as insanity. To them, the humans are completely insane. Their actions don't make sense. For us, it's normal human response to an invasion. We've got, a full frontal assault on the beings from space that are trying to take our planet. And from the beings' perspective, they're the dominant species. They're not privy to defeat. So when they found that the humans were pushing back against their dominance, it broke the aliens' minds. They were completely blown away by this turn of events. It was the crux of their defeat. So without really getting too much deeper into the plot, I would like to point out some of the fun synchronicities between this book and the movie Tropes of Alien Invasions. So let's go through that a little. Okay, so in no particular order, we have the typical military powers that be in this world of 1985-ish. So we're still in the midst of the Cold War. We've still got a Russian foe and two nuclear-armed and capable superpowers. And of course, the typical American response to something in these situations is, America's got to save the day. America's got to beat them. America's got to whoop their butts. America's got to have military supremacy. These are classic invasion tropes. But tie that to stupid evil, because we do. We have the stupid evil that exists in our world that we contend with, invasion or not. And in this book, being 1985, which may actually still be quite relevant today, the stupid evil are the Russian government, the Soviets, to be more specific. So they actually attempt to do a runaround from the Americans and essentially make a treaty with the aliens in order to avert disaster and maintain some level of supremacy. So I think we've seen that before. So the aliens have a really fantastic Larry Niven alien name, the FITHP, FITHP. Niven is really into those consonant sounds when making alien names, which who can blame them? They sound like great alien names. But, of course, one of the reoccurring tropes in alien invasion films is the tendency to go all in immediately. And by that, I mean nuke them all, right? If given the opportunity, Americans will absolutely nuke their own cities if it means maintaining supremacy over an invader. So, where do we nuke? Well, we got to nuke Larry Niven's hometown in Kansas. They nuked Kansas. It's hard not to see the parallel with Independence Day. We didn't just nuke Kansas in Independence Day, though. We had to nuke a lot more important stuff. So the fifth are a herd species. So they've got all the trappings that sort of come with that. They resemble one another physically within the herd, and they're trapped by predecessor knowledge. So they've been on a generation ship. They've grown up on this ship, on this mission, and what they've got to work with is the tools and the philosophy of their predecessors, generations before them. And this is a little spoiler, but like one of the really cool things that occurs in this book, which sort of ties it into other disaster films, disaster tropes, think Hammer of God, that sort of thing. The aliens, they don't bother with, massive plasma weapons or, lasers, death rays. They're much more pragmatic than that. They're in space. They have a planet below them that is vulnerable to the natural vulnerabilities that come with space. So instead of dragging along on their generation's ship an enormous amount of firepower, they decide to just use nature to their advantage, and they start lobbing rocks at Earth. So the effects of this are tremendous and immediate. We've got people running from their lives with invasion forces and nuclear bombardments from their own government and space rocks. So it really ties it all together. One of the things that inhibits the fifth is this sort of creative inhibition that comes from being part of this generation ship scenario. They don't know their home world. They don't know the people who started the mission. So they're just sort of tied in to this very tunnel-like vision of what success means for them and the mission as a whole. And this creates blind spots. And I think that this is again a reoccurring trope. If we just look at the film Independence Day, the fact that Will Smith was able to just fly his ship directly into the alien ship, past security and whatnot, just because it looked like an alien ship. The aliens couldn't envision a situation where the humans would lie to them in this way and usurp their authority in such a way. And it's really a failure of creativity. If I can just take an aside right now, in terms of humanness, I think that a lack of creativity is something that is deeply affecting humanity at the moment. We can actually place ourselves in those shoes of generation ship occupants. I mean, we're here on Earth. We're traveling through the galaxy, swirling around our star. And what we have to go on is the knowledge of our predecessors and their failures and their intentions. And because we are so numerous and so different as a species, many of us find ourselves disillusioned and depressed and lost and lacking an idea of how to move forward in life. And they look to their own predecessors, their family. Maybe these these feelings respond from their own personal experience. But what it comes down to is a lack of creativity. You have problems in your life that you're going to face, and you may not be invading a planet, but in those problems, you have an opportunity to exhibit some level of creativity in how you solve them. So if you're stuck at home, can't move out, you're financially vulnerable, whatever the case may be, I'm not saying that there's a clear-cut solution to all of this, but I feel that there are a great number of people in the world who remain stuck in these cycles and become defeated by humanity simply because of a lack of creativity. So that's a deep aside, but it is what it is. And of course, we can't have a good science fiction trope generator without having scientists involved who are actually just analogs of the writers. So Larry Niven himself is in this book. Jerry Purnell is in this book. They're of course gathered up by the government in an attempt to think tank our way out of the situation. We also have the presence of an additional writer. Of course, none of these people are mentioned by name. They're simply analogs. But we actually do have an analog of Heinlein in the book, which is funny for its own way. Of course, the Heinlein character's approach is, how should we put it, different than the Niven character or the Purnell character's approach. But I think, that's what we come to expect from Heinlein and the sort of, general selfish libertarian philosophy. I really think you should give it a read. This is actually a really nice copy. It's an original hardback first edition. I think I found this for, a couple of bucks at a used bookstore. They're out there. They're out there in paperback. They're out there in hardback. Of course, Kindle and audiobook and all the rest. I actually don't know about I'm sure that there's an audiobook. I don't know. Either way, it's a fantastic book. I highly recommend it. I only mentioned a handful of the various tropes that are found in this book. I should mention there's one other really fantastic one, and that's there's probably a name for it, but it's the guy with his head in the toilet trope. When somebody, grabs the dude by the back of the head and shoves his head in the toilet and holds him there for a minute until he gives, we got it going on. So they're in here, and it's deeply entertaining for that reason. Of course, we've got a guy that has to go from one coast to the other coast and back again in this limited amount of time. And we also have the joy of having a completely unlikely character save the day. So, spoilers. I generally feel that Niven books are underrepresented out there in the book review, Booktube realm. But at least for the next few videos, I think I'm actually going to be covering a handful of Niven books and talking about known space and sort of the architecture of his world building. There are a lot of really great criticisms of Niven's work. One being that it's pulp candy, and my God, it's wonderful candy. It is delicious. The other being that, some of his older novels are products of their time. We've got sort of minorly skeezy men, mostly respectful. Niven himself is a respectful dude. But, the women suffer from the same things that most of the women in the 1950s, 60s, and 70s suffered from, which was autonomy. That's not always the case, but it's the case in a lot of his books. The fact is, though, there's, especially in his known space books, the thing that is most wonderful is the connective tissue. And I feel like that's what most people are reading those books for. They're looking at the connective tissue. It's a referential circle jerk. And I think that's one of the great things that makes world building spectacular, is the referential circle jerk throughout the works. And if you and I sit down and start reading Larry Niven novels, and of course this isn't from the known space universe, but if we read novels from the known space universe in our current paradigm, and we read them back to back, it may not be as enjoyable as thinking about how that work came about organically in its own timeline. There were works that Larry put out early in his career that were referencing things that he had not yet written about. And there are works later in his career that finally reference those things and flesh them out. And then there's further connective referential tissue that goes back to the beginning and the middle and all around. So my advice normally, especially with the known space books, and I'll do an entire video about this. I'm mentioning this just to sort of kick this idea off, but read them out of order. Don't start with Ringworld. Don't try to jump into the middle of a series of books. Read them out of order. Don't pay attention to publication dates. When you read Niven this way, it is so satisfying. So anyway, great book, great team. Same two guys that wrote The Mote in God's Eye. Read this book. Thank you for watching my channel. I hope you come back. I'm trying to get the hang of this. This is the first time that I've looked directly at a camera. I really enjoy book haul videos. I enjoy watching them, and I assume that other people enjoy watching them too. And I do go and scout for books. I'm always looking for white whales. I am lucky enough to live in a part of the United States that has a large enough population that there is a nearly inexhaustible source of used science fiction books here. So I will be posting some book haul videos because it's fun. I enjoy Bookpild's book haul videos. There's something really comforting about it for some reason, and cover art's great, and we like to be reminded of books that we may have forgotten about. There's some really great book content on YouTube. I think I'm maybe saying this for my own advantage, but it is presumptuous of me to get on here and think that I have a right to talk about these books, but I'm just a random a-hole out in the world, and I've read a lot of books, and I've been bugging my wife and friends about certain books and talking about them for a long time. And, there are other books that probably have more to say about than this one in particular, but I think I just need to get some of this out. So, if you're into it, hit subscribe and, just come along on the book journey with me. I have a Maker channel called Uncanny Valley Woods, and if you're into Maker content, if that's your jam, I got some of that over there. Yeah, I just want to say thank you, and have a great weekend.